Andrew, welcome to the Fitness and Lifestyle podcast, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on today, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mate, I was chatting to you just before we started. Obviously, you've recently joined the podcasting world with Rogue Bogues. We'll touch on that a little bit later on, mate. But the first thing that I kind of, usually with guests, I don't really write anything down, but there was a number of things that I really wanted to touch on today. And I also put up a story on socials last week for people to send through some questions. And we got some pretty good ones. Won't ask all of them, but the first thing I had in mind, mate, was what was the initial reaction, the initial feeling when you were picked in the number one draft pick in 2005 in the NBA?
It was it happened so quickly, to be honest with you, because my people that know my journey to get into the professional ranks it all happened in a small amount of time. I went from, under 18s, not making a state team, getting cut, to within a 3-year period, basically being drafted number one in the NBA. So it was that block of work finally, worked itself out. But as far as the feeling of going number one, I knew I'd set history, first Australian ever, to do that, and have my family there and people that were with me throughout my childhood was real special. But once it was called, when you're called number one, it's gone. That night's gone. Whereas, sometimes people that pick 8, 9, 10, they can really live up to the suspense of it. Whereas it kind of happened straight away. So I was pretty fortunate, and then basically went to the back of the room there, past David Stern, did interviews with about 15 or 20 different media stations that was set up, and then went and partied, really. Went and celebrated, and it was the first time I let my hair down in a number of years, and then was on a private jet the next morning to Milwaukee. So it's the NBA schedule is full on, and once that kind of got rolling, there was no looking back.
What a whirlwind. That's incredible. And I was thinking as well, like, you mentioned how that kind of the period from, missing out on state teams and stuff like that to then all of a sudden being the number one draft pick. It's quite a short period of time there, that time frame. So do you think that helped in any way with not having as much expectation or not having as much, not doubt in your mind, but I guess pressure on yourself to do exceptionally well when you came into the NBA? Or was the fact that you went number one, the fact that you were the first Aussie to do it, was there just a shitload of pressure? And did you feel that, and did it kind of affect you in any way coming into your first season?
From an Australian point of view, no. Basketball wasn't as big as it is now. At least the NBA wasn't. So for Australian journalists and people there, they didn't really understand how big it was at the time. And there was pressure. You're the number one pick. Every rookie's trying to punch you that you're playing against and play better than you. There's veterans that are going to test you. There's stars that are going to test you. And I've been on record to say I probably wasn't physically ready for the NBA that year. And that was just because at that time I weighed probably 220. And that was something that I had to kind of work to. So I ended up going out there, getting drafted, knowing that I'm not completely ready to play, but I'd be silly to go back for another year of college and hurt my stock, potentially get injured. God knows what can happen, right? So I went in there with an open mind, knowing that I had to work on my body, and I had a relatively good year. I averaged 9.5 and 7 rebounds, so not horrible by any means, but not setting the world on fire. And then I kind of, every year after that, I got better and better.
How much of a difference was there in the physical preparation side of things from college ball coming into the NBA? You obviously said that physically you probably felt like you weren't ready, but how much work went in the NBA compared to the work you're putting in college?
It was, to be honest, it wasn't that much different. It was just, I hadn't grown into my body yet. I was a real late developer, real late, like could barely grow facial hair till my mid to late 20s. Didn't have hair on my legs till I was 18, 19 years old. I developed really, really late. I just don't think I was fully developed to, even if I would have smashed the weight room at, freshman year or sophomore year in college when I was 19, 20, I just couldn't hold it on. I still remember where my freshman year, our coach was adamant on Rick Majerus, who was one of the hardest nosed coaches to ever coach in college. And they were always one of the big guys to put on weight. and I could not put on weight. I just could not hold weight. And because we're training so much, it was kind of like anything I'd worked on in the weight room and the meals were going out the window with a 3-hour training session. So he used to make guys, the weights coaches used to make guys try and drink the protein shakes. They had the pre-mixed ones. I called metrics or
Yeah.
X or some shit like that back in the day. And
Over in the States. Yeah.
yeah, I remember they'd weigh you after a weight session and you have a target weight every week. So if you were 220, and we're going to talk in pounds now for the Aussies, which is roughly 100 kilos. So if you were 220, they'd say, well, by the end of the week, you're going to be 225. So make sure you get your meals in. So on that Friday, if you were like 222, they'd make you drink. So what is that? Basically if they're half a pound cans, 5 or 6 cans to hit weight. That's how crazy it was. Like, it's doing that these days, you'd be an absolute moron, but that's just what they did. And
yeah.
I just referenced that because I just could not hold weight. My body wasn't ready to hold weight. And then as I slowly grew from a man to a teenager to a young man, I started to be able to hold the weight. And then by my second, third year, I got up to 240, 250, 260, and then I peaked at around 260 throughout my career, which is roughly, 118 kilos.
Yeah, cool. I'll come back to the physical side of things really soon because I've got some specific stuff I wanted to touch on. But outside of the weights room and outside of the physical preparation side of things, who was kind of your biggest influence on the actual basketball on-court side of stuff in your first few years in the NBA?
Oh, there was numerous people, and I wasn't really one of those guys that had one specific person. I kind of will try to take positives or things from different people. So my rookie year, they signed a guy named Irvin Johnson, not Irvin Magic Johnson, but a different Irvin Johnson who played center for the Seattle Sonics back in the day, and
not that old.
Yeah, just an old veteran that they basically signed to try and mentor me, and he was a great help. As far as I remember, sitting on the back of the bus, and we'd be flying into Minnesota or wherever, and he would go through the scouting report. So he'd basically asking me questions about, the big that I'm matching up with. This is what he does. He likes to go this way. He likes to shoot this hook shot in this spot, and he'd do that every kind of trip. And that was something I kind of passed on to younger fellas when I got older, and that's kind of what you do as an older veteran. And he taught me a lot about that. So he was a guy that really helped me my rookie year, just to transition. And then there was just, Brian Gorgon was pretty instrumental early on in my career, just playing with the national team and giving me the confidence and the time, especially at a real young age. And I trained with the Victoria Titans, who are now defunct, but I trained with them as a young fella. So there's numerous people. It wouldn't just be one person. And I think that's what it's about today. I think the athletes that take, there's pros and negatives to every coach you have. There's things you're going to hate and things you're going to like. But being able to take positives from many different sources, I think helps you better your game, no matter, no matter what sport you're playing. And sometimes it's, like Luke Longley helped me a little bit towards the end of my career because he's more in the holistic way of coaching, where it's very mental and, the chi and the centering yourself and that kind of side of things. And sometimes you make a point and you're like, well, that's right. Maybe that shouldn't be bothering me as much as it is. So, it just goes to show that even some of the stuff you wouldn't think helps you, you can take 1, 2, 5% of that from someone and put it in your box and then help you get better.
Is the mindfulness and mental health side of things, is that something that you did put much of an emphasis on throughout your career? And was there, it's obviously being on the road, an 82-game season and potentially playoffs as well, it's a very long season. So is there some form of routine that you try to stick to most days when you wake up, considering that you're going to be all over the USA and chopping and changing from where you are, sleeping from night to night? So is there something that you did to kind of center yourself and bring yourself back to, I guess, put yourself in the same kind of habit every single morning?
I think routine just does that to you naturally. If you try to keep your routine, I think it gets you set for your day or your week or your month. So I probably wasn't as much as I should have involved in the mental side of the game. When you're young and dumb, you don't know any better, and you probably wish you would have probably done a little bit more. But going back to the way the NBA schedule is sometimes there's just no time for it. Like the schedule is nothing that anyone can imagine. It's getting in at 2, 3 in the morning, go to bed, get off a plane, go to bed, go to a hotel, have a meeting the next morning, have a game that night, get on a bus, off a bus, on a flight, and that's your life basically for 8-9 months a year. And sometimes it's a good thing because you just don't have time to stop and think. As I got
Yeah.
older, you have a little bit more time to think that, and sometimes it can be a hindrance, to be honest with you, because you overthink things at times, and that's where the mental
Yeah.
health side of things comes in play. Whereas early in my career, like an example for me would be, like I'm not a bad flyer now, but I don't love flying. Early in my career, like we could have, plane could have been almost going down and I couldn't give two shits. And it almost did twice as a young fella in the NBA. Whereas towards the end of my career, I would be sitting up and tightening the seatbelt. And that's because the older I got, the more I think things, and it just, it just spirals, and then you kind of in your own head. So that would be a prime example of
Yeah.
the way things change. And everyone goes through that no matter what industry you're in, or no matter how rich or powerful or poor and have no money, whatever. Like everyone goes through those battles, right?
100%. And was that a positive for you? I mean, you look at sporting leagues such as the NBL and the AFL here, you have a bad game and you've pretty much got a week to think about it. And particularly in the AFL, especially in Victoria, it's all over the news, it's all in the papers, it's everything, all everyone talks about for a whole week. You got to sit there and kind of just dwell on it for the whole week. Was it good in the NBA knowing that, if you did have a shit game, you've probably got a game the next day or in the next couple of days anyway to come back out and refocus and come out and kind of prove yourself there and just move on from it?
Spot on. Yeah, no doubt. And when I first got in the NBA, I take losses really hard, really, really hard. And
Yep.
a veteran pulled me aside and said, "Man, we've got another one tomorrow. Like,
Mm.
do I want it?" The rule generally was, do I want it that night? Maybe the next morning, if you don't have a game, address the problems and then move on to that next opponent. And that's the next man up, next game up mentality. When I played in the NBL the last couple of years, I hated losing. If we had 2 games on a weekend and I lost that second game, I hated it because you wanted to get to that next week and have a good game and have that good feeling. And that kind of messes with you mentally as well. It's the ups and downs of the season, and you might be in a bit of a worse mood with the family and friends that whole week
Yeah.
leading to a next game. But when you win, you feel much better. So it definitely makes a difference, and that's the good thing. The good thing and the bad thing about the NBA is you might get a little niggle or get hurt. You've got a game the next day. That sucks.
Mm.
But from a mental point of view, you have a shocking game. You get ejected. You go 0 for 10. You don't make a shot. You got a chance to then score 30 the next night, and no one remembers that night before.
Yeah. And sticking on the mental side of things, you've played with some pretty unbelievable players. Obviously, you're an incredible player yourself. And what do you see as a bit of a pattern, or I guess a pattern amongst the players that are exceptional players, night in, night out, season after season, on the mental side of things, outside of just having skills on the court and maybe physically they're a really good athlete? What's the mental difference between those that are just exceptionally good players and that aren't afraid to put up that final shot every single game? And if they have missed the last kind of 5 in a row, what is that difference?
I don't think there's one thing. Every elite player I've played with is completely different. I've had elite players that are the most OCD, organised, on and off the court, everything, they do everything to perfection. I've had teammates that are elite at what they do, and off the court, their lives are absolute shambles. So I don't think there's one pattern. You think there would be, but there isn't. Some of these elite
Yep.
guys, you're just like, man, like you're just a talented, great basketballer or footballer or whatever, but then they couldn't organize their life to get to a doctor's appointment on time, and that's just, there's a mix. It's mixed, and most of the guys I played with, like Steph Curry's one. He's just most things that he does, he'll pick up very, very quickly, especially fine motor skills, and almost
Yep.
perfect it within a day or two. It could be something as silly as throwing a piece of paper in a rubbish bin, and just that's just how he works and his cortex works, and he just picks it up quickly. Whereas some people are really good at basketball and talented, but anything else kind of, there's an awkwardness. So everyone's kind of different. As far as the mental approaches, I mean, the one thing I guess you'd see with the guys that were elite is that the time they put in away from the game, and when no one's watching, is generally as kind of intense and aggressive as a game.
Yeah.
That kind of not letting things away from the court and the business side of basketball affect them as much. Some are ignorant to it completely, and some just don't let them. Doesn't bother them, you know. Whereas for me, it got bothered me through different phases of my career. Just the human element um, of our business in the NBA is pretty toxic at times with the money involved. So that's where the elite can kind of knuckle down and just block all that out.
You mentioned Steph Curry there. We watch him, on TV and on the court, and he just does some just unbelievable things, just stuff where you just you put your game sliders up on NBA 2K and you still probably couldn't make the fucking shots he makes. What the stuff that we see on TV, is that the type of shit that he's doing each day at training? Like, were there days, obviously you train with him over and over again. Is there stuff that he would do in training where you would just be like, wow, like this is just crazy? And is he practicing a lot of that shit that he's doing day in, day out on the court?
Yeah, I mean the full court shots and stuff like that, he really he puts a lot of time in that, but he puts a lot of time into the simple stuff as well. And that's what people don't see. People see Steph shooting from the logo, pre-game warm-ups, all that stuff, but he does a lot of the simple stuff too and spends a lot of time on that. So you can't get from point A to, let's call logo shots G without doing everything in between. And that's where kids are getting lost. Like, they want to go into high school now and pull up on the break from just over half court. It's like, well, Steph wasn't always doing that. He was working his way to being able to shoot off the dribble. Then it was being able to take a sidestep, then a sidestep back, then pulling up 2 feet behind the three, then pulling up 3 feet, then getting to the logo. So everything's progression, and he puts a lot of time into his craft, albeit he is, just like I said, naturally talented in what he does. You can just see he's got it. He's one of those people that has it, but he's also put in a shitload of work. And that's where sometimes people that just say, oh, he was born to play basketball. That's ever really the case with any athlete. You still put a lot of the time and effort in. Now, you can be favored with good genes. You can be favored with, just knowing how to play to an extent, but that usually comes from them watching a lot of their specific sport as a young fella, picking up that IQ and just constantly learning. People that think you're kind of born, no matter what you look like, no matter what your body composition is, and you're just born to do that, I don't really buy into that much. I think, Kevin Durant, for instance, yeah, great. He's being born with a perfect basketball body. But shit, he's still putting a lot of work. I mean, he's putting a lot of time and effort into his craft, and he's doing things that guys his size shouldn't be as per se doing. So there's no secret that with professional athletes, 99% of them don't just roll around by talent.
Back to the physical side of things, I mean, that's some awesome points there. Back to the physical side of things, the very significant injury that you had early on with the elbow. Was the elbow the first major one?
Yeah, the first one that really rocked me. Yeah,
really rocked you. Yeah. How much of an impact do you think that had on, say, the extent of your career in the NBA? The difference it had on your whole physical preparation side of things, and do you think your career would have looked any different, or different at all if that injury didn't happen?
Yeah, obviously you can always look back, and one small thing can change the trajectory of where you've been and what you've done. But the elbow for me was a big one because I felt like individually that year, that was my career year, numbers wise, 16 and 10, and really started to play well defensively, really started to understand how to protect the basket. And Scott Skiles was great in teaching me I need to be held accountable defensively. So yeah, it was a hard one. It was a hard pill to swallow for me. Like I said, number one pick, first year didn't set the world on fire, and then gradually got better, and then was averaging a double-double the next couple of seasons, and then finally got to that point where I felt like, I was up there with the elite big men in the league, right? Top 5, top 10, whatever you want to call it. So to have that taken away with that elbow sucked, and it was because it was my right arm. It really wreaked a bit of havoc with my touch. I'm not going to lie. And I mean, I shot threes in college at times. I was shooting jumpers in the NBA at that point. I felt confident going both ways. And then I rushed back from that injury. I did it I think I did it in March, and it should have been a 9 or 12 monther with everything that I did. I broke my index finger, broke my wrist, I think on both sides, broke my elbow, hyperextended my elbow, had a bone chip in there, and then I was back on the court for training camp in September. So, I shouldn't have been back on the court at that point, but my legs were fine, everything was fine, and that whole season I basically played left-handed. Like I couldn't go right really. Couldn't even like hold an armbar up in the post defensively with my right elbow. So I hit it as much as I could, and I still ended up averaging a double that year. And I think I led the league in blocks and still had a good year individually. But I knew a portion of my game was kind of missing, and I just couldn't really get it back. And then confidence started to play an issue, and it was just one of those things I had to kind of adapt to.
Yeah.
But you look at that injury, and then bouncing back from that, then doing my ankle really bad, getting undercut by Kyle Lowry in Houston and snapping my ankle. If those two things don't happen, I probably don't end up in Golden State. So
Yeah.
you know, my trade
Everything
value,
happens for a reason.
yeah, they told me they weren't going to trade me before I did my ankle. I was like, look, I want to try to explore some trade options. And they said, we're not going to get fair value back. Good big man. We're not going to get someone back that can fill your shoes. So we're not moving you. And then 2 weeks later, I broke my ankle. And all of a sudden they thought, shit, like if we can get someone back that's going to at least play the rest of the season, we've got a chance to make a playoff push. GM was in the hot seat, coach was in the hot seat, and it all just lined up that I ended up getting bounced to Golden State, which I didn't play for the rest of that season. They sucked at the time record-wise, so it didn't matter. And then ended up being part of one of the most successful teams in NBA history and won a championship. So that's what I mean by one small change. Maybe I end up being an all-star and never winning a championship.
Yeah.
In Milwaukee with no injuries, but I'd rush rather the championship ring because I feel like no one really remembers a random all-star from 1 or 2 years. They remember a championship team and a team that won, 73 games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a massive believer in that everything happens for a reason. And I think you've kind of just touched on you've already answered my next question, but that's the elbow and the big injuries. They're obviously the low points of the career, but what has been the highest point of your career, the moment that'll always kind of stick in your mind as the most memorable thing as your time as a basketballer?
Winning a championship in the NBA is not easy. There's 450 players, and there's one group that gets it every year. And let's be honest, generally that from the preseason, there's probably 4, maybe 5 teams that genuinely have a shot. So I was on that other 25 team in Milwaukee, generally, where we knew like a playoff berth for us was fantastic.
Yeah.
Anything beyond that, we're kind of dreaming. So that's number one. But the thing I'm most proud of is just getting to a point where I played 14 years in the NBA, 2 in the NBL, with the injuries that I had. I bounced back from every one of them just as hard as I could, and still was a pretty, capable player towards the end of my career, where probably the last 3-4 years of my career, like it was a struggle just to tend to daily life, let alone play basketball against grown men. So I'm proud of that. Told twice almost. The elbow, the doctor's like, yeah, we don't know if you're going to be able to kind of shoot a basketball properly again.
Yeah.
That one I bounced back from. And the ankle was the bad one. The ankle one was basically, we don't think, you might not play much more after this ankle injury. And once I heard that from Doc, I was like, geez, and I almost retired. About a year after the surgery, just couldn't get it right, kept swelling, and just kept kind of pushing. And that's what people don't see, was that daily rehab and physio and swelling and frustration and cold baths and massage and acupuncture and PRP. I tried everything under the sun to get this thing right.
Yeah.
And like almost 16, 17, 18 months, it would blow up and kept blowing up and kept blowing up. And I almost hung them up and persisted through. And I'm glad I did, because I ended up winning a championship and then came back in Australia. It was pretty successful here. So, I'm real proud of the fact that I kind of was against the odds when you consider the injury history that I had.
Yeah, it's incredible. Such an unbelievable career. And coming back to Australia with the Kings, how do you see basketball in Australia at the moment? Are you happy with where it's at? Happy with how the progression is coming from, the juniors up into the professional ranks and the league, where the league is at the moment in the NBL?
I think the league's in a really good place competition-wise. I think there's never been a more competitive time for us to have the opportunity to have guys like LaMelo Ball and now this year Josh Giddey and former NBA players, and now instead of going to Europe are now looking to come out here. I mean, it's a very stable league to an extent. You're going to get paid on time. The wins and losses don't matter when it comes to your paycheck. Whereas in Europe, Greece, wherever, like you lose 3 straight and your paycheck doesn't show up for a couple of months. And that's just the reality of what you're dealing with.
Mm.
So you could sign a $1 million contract over there, but you might not get most of it. You might get half of it. Whereas in Australia, it's a little bit less money on paper, but I always tell guys you're going to get that money that's on paper, right? So as far as that goes, it's good, very competitive. And, 9 teams, will be 10 next year with the Tasmanian franchise coming in. So it's great. But I mean, I'm always cognizant of I don't want great. I want excellent. I want above. I want elite. And I think we have all the tools to do that. But at times you got to give the admin and the people running the league kick up the arse, which I'm not afraid to do, and it gets me some flack. But there's some things that are non-negotiables that need to be bettered. But they've also done some good things. Larry Kesselman has invested a shitload of money. He basically poured his own money in 5, 6, 7 years ago now to make sure the league was running properly. But we can't sit on that now for the next 7 years.
Yeah.
Continue to give him hugs for it. We gotta better the league and make sure that it's the clear number 2 after the NBA. Right now, EuroLeague's probably just ahead of the NBL, but we want to be that number 2. We want to be right up there with EuroLeague, and we need to fix a few things along the way.
What do you think at the moment are some of the main things that need to improve for that to be the clear cemented second spot to the NBA?
I just lifting the level of professionalism on a daily basis.
Yep.
There's small things like right now there's a bit of an issue, or not a bit of an issue, a big issue with the decals on the floor, where the sponsorship decal logos, it seems like there's 1 or 2 games a weekend that it's just a shit show of guys. Basically becomes an ice skating rink where guys are going down left, right and centre, and it's been an issue for 3 or 4 years now, and
with no change.
Yeah, I mean the change is the same old stuff. We're going to try to clean it better. Well, I don't think it's a cleaning issue. I think there's other issues that need to be looked at, and instead of trying to rectify it on the fly, get rid of the shit, then go do your own thesis or study on it in a private court somewhere and figure it out. But at the moment, you're using world-class athletes as guinea pigs. My concern is a Josh Giddey or a LaMelo Ball, for instance. Last year, they do their knee. Like, you don't want that highlight on ESPN. You don't want...
Yeah.
And then now that it's public record that the decals are a little bit dangerous, but we're at a point where they're scared to address it because there's money coming in from those logos. But you got to be forward thinking. In my opinion, I think that you can, if there's a sponsor that's got their logo on the court, you go to them and you say, hey, we're going to give you 3 extra player appearances this season, and we're going to put your logo in 5 other spots instead of the court because of a safety issue. Most sponsors are going to understand that. If you're a sponsor, do you want DK Fitness on the floor and someone doing their ACL?
Yeah, exactly right. Not at all.
So that's where the frustration lies. And Larry can run the league how he sees fit. But, I mean, I feel like we have to have people that are willing to comment on how we better the league. And I don't think that's, it gets lost sometimes because people think I'm shitting on the league. Couldn't be further from the truth. I want the league to get from great to fucking great, right? I want it to be that league. And if you just keep patting each other on the back saying, well, thanks, Larry, you invest a lot of money for the next 10 years, you're just going to be right here. You're going to be behind the NRL forever. And I want to get high in the AFL and the NRL one day.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate that. Appreciate the honesty there. And I'm very mindful of your time, Andrew, so I won't hold you up for much longer. But there's a couple more things I want to touch on. In the mix of players that we've got in the NBL at the moment, specifically the Australian players, who do you see as a potential next guy to make it over in the NBA?
Well, Josh Giddey's the number 1 option right now. He young, very talented, high basketball IQ, knows how to play, and I think he'll be. Don't know where he'll be drafted. I hope it's somewhere in that first round, and a little inconsistent right now. But he's young and he's learning the game, and he's with a rookie, not a rookie head coach, but a first year coach in Adelaide at the moment. So he's gone through trials and tribulations, which is great. It's a testament to having potential first round picks or second round picks come over here, because I think it gives them enough adversity that scouts can then say this kid's faced a lot more adversity than just the kid going to his hometown college. So Josh Giddey would be the one right now for me that I think has a genuine chance to not only get drafted but play in the NBA.
Awesome. Before we go on to just a couple of these questions off socials here, I wanted to touch on the podcast. So Rogue Bogues, how's that been going? What can people expect from it for those that haven't tuned in before? Where can they find it? And what's what's your plan with the show and what type of stuff you want to be talking about on a weekly basis?
Yeah, at Rogue Bogues on all social media platforms. So pretty simple, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and then it's basically on all good, podcast platforms. But there's links on all the socials that pull up a page that basically they give you Google Podcasts, they give you Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to watch it.
I'll have that link in the show notes as well. So everyone that's tuned in, you'll be able to go to the show notes and find out. Super easy.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. But I guess just being able to kind of have my own voice that's not PR produced by a network or by a boss. I can kind of talk about what I want to talk about, sometimes controversial, sometimes not, sometimes things I'm passionate about. And the good thing about the podcast is we've got kind of different kind of topical podcasts. So we have a weekly basketball show that's just current events. We do a Q&A through that. So a lot of fans get to ask sometimes unique, controversial, wacky, whatever questions. We're open to it all. The point of that one is to give real behind the scenes NBA stories for the most part about examples of something going on now about when I was there, interacting with when I dealt with that when I was there, and just giving honest takes. We're not trying to be clickbait controversial, but at times we are controversial because we're very blunt and truthful. Then there's the My Journey portion of the podcast, which is done better than I thought it would because it's specific to kind of my journey. And it's basically, I wanted to do an autobiography in a book would read like, but via podcast. So
cool.
It starts with being born, childhood, primary school, high school, all the way, and it's going to end with retirement, right? So we're into episode 4, and that was just my freshman year in college. So I'm slowly getting those out. I have guests on along the way.
That's cool.
A lot of good feedback from a lot of juniors and stuff that have listened to it, and parents, because a lot of people don't know kind of the trials and tribulations of my career. And then we just launched a car chat as well. I'm passionate about cars and automobiles. Talking with a friend of mine, just talking about mainly the Australian muscle car market and what's going on. So just being able to have the freedom to be able to talk about whatever I want to talk about, produce it and chuck it online. And some stuff gets huge numbers and some stuff doesn't. And then we can kind of adapt from there. But we're about to hit 100K listens total, within the first, 2.5, 3 months, which is pretty good.
Awesome.
So yeah, hoping goal for me is to get to 1 million by the end of the year. So I'm working towards that. And that's a goal I've set for myself. So hopefully we can get there. But just an honest, no PR proofed podcast.
Awesome. I mean, I think everybody that's tuned into today's episode, after hearing what they've heard today, would be more than interested to come and check it out. So, like I said, I'll have the link in the show notes for you, man. So a few questions just to wrap up. This is just a few things I took off a social media story I put up, just people asking questions.
No worries.
So the first one is, who is the best shit talker in the NBA?
Oh, the best shit talker in the NBA? Well, one of my former teammates, Draymond Green's probably the current best and biggest shit talker, and he's just passionate dude. So he's going to get into anyone and their mum and their auntie and their cousin. And he doesn't care. He loves to get into guys, and sometimes he's doing it to fire himself up. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
Before game, and he'll get into it with someone, get a double technical, try and rev himself up. Former player would be Kevin Garnett. Yeah, that dude did. He talked to anyone as well. He talked to guys in the stands, guys, whoever it was, right? So I got into it with KG a fair bit because I didn't want to take his shit, even though he was a superstar. But those two guys are probably the biggest ones that come to mind.
You're obviously pretty active on Twitter yourself. So what's been like the funniest Twitter insult you've ever received from just a random keyboard warrior?
Oh man, I've had so many. Like I get a lot. I mean, I don't know if it was the funniest, but I commented on the Mac Horton swimming escapade many years ago, or about 2 years ago now, and made fun of the Chinese swimmer, whatever his name is, I forgot, Sun Tzu, something like that. But he, basically got death threats, got everything under the sun, and then forgot that the end of 2019 I was playing in the World Championship national team, which happened to be in China.
I remember watching that.
It was full on. It was full on. Like I was getting people sending memes of pigs with my head on it, dogs with my head on it. Like so some of the stuff was pretty funny. But it got a little bit serious at times. We had to kind of contact the authorities because I got a few death threats before I was going over there and whatnot. But the dog stuff, Photoshop, some of the Photoshops they did were just so bad that they were funny, right? So it's just like Photoshop like a 3-year-old could have done, and
Cut and paste.
kind of what made it funny.
That's awesome. And I had a fair few requests actually. If just a few guys wondering if you'd be able to fill in for their domestic team in basketball sometime during the week if you get some free time.
Yeah, I get a
Can't
lot of
imagine that'd be at the top of your priority list.
unless it's a wheelchair teammate, probably not.
And then the last one here, man. I grew up playing basketball in Horsham, so I've been lucky to play with a few of the
A
guys that
Horsham
you've
boy.
been lucky to play
Wow.
with. So like Shawnee and Aaron and Creaky and that. So Sean sent in a question asking who's the best Horsham player you've ever played with.
The best Horsham player. His brother was really good, man. Aaron Bruce was he was a he was a killer junior player, man. Like it was basically him and I from Victoria coming through like under 20s, and I hated playing against him, and then we both got scholarships to the AAS. And I remember our training sessions at the AAS were probably two of the most competitive dudes on that team, and we'd be always on the opposite team. Our coaches would structure it that way, and we'd be going at it. And he was a killer. He could shoot it, he could pass, get to the free throw line. Went to Baylor for a number of years. He kind of got screwed around there a little bit towards the end of his tenure there. They over recruited him a little bit. He led all freshmen in scoring his freshman year. A lot of people don't know
Yeah.
that, and probably could have been late second round if he went out to the draft maybe or somewhere around there. So just a missed opportunity for him. But came back to Australia and never really solidified himself as a high-end professional, but he was a very, very well-respected player. But Shawnee's doing a great job. I mean, his story's a great one. He basically no one wanted to touch him. In our league, he was kind of floating all over the place, and then we gave him a chance. We'll ever put him on the floor, and he's a consummate professional. I love him, love everything about him. Plays for the team, and he's had to work for everything that he has. So he's been good, and then obviously Creaky's doing what he's doing down in southeast Melbourne. But out of those three from juniors, it would be Aaron for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, Andrew, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you today, mate. Very much appreciate your time today, and yeah, really looking forward to getting this one out there. And like I said, for everybody that's tuned into today's episode, make sure you go and check out Andrew's podcast. The link will be in the show notes below. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please do take a screenshot of this episode and post it up on your Instagram story for us. We'd love to get your feedback. But thanks a lot, man. Much appreciated.
No worries. Anytime. Thanks.